Did you say it? Good evening. It's 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. This is the meeting of the City of Franklin Common Council. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Nelson,
Here.
Alderman Peccarelli,
Here.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Here.
Alderman Hassan,
Here.
Alderwoman Day,
Here.
Alderman Barber,
Here.
Alderman Craig is excused.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And afterward, if you would remain standing for a brief moment of silence for the shooting victims in Madison. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, before we go to item B, citizen comment period, I will again read verbatim the City of Franklin meeting rules of decorum for attendees and participants. This exact document is laminated up at the podium, and I believe there are copies back behind Leroy. For those attending City of Franklin meetings, number 1, respectful and orderly conduct is expected at all times. Number 2, disruptive or unruly behavior, including but not limited to clapping, verbal disruptions, signs, and outbursts will not be tolerated. For those wishing to speak during City of Franklin meetings, approach the microphone when the chair opens the floor for citizen comments. Number 2, state your name and address for the record. 3, address your comments to the Common Council, Board, Commission, or Committee only. 4, limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. I'm the timekeeper. 5, no endorsements or electioneering are allowed. 6, speakers shall refrain from presenting unduly repetitious, offensive, threatening, slanderous, defamatory, or obscene remarks. Number 7, persons wishing to speak as a spokesperson on behalf of a neighborhood, subdivision, homeowners, condominium, or business association or similar group with common interests shall demonstrate their qualifications to do so according to the City of Franklin Resolution number 2007-6227 before speaking on that body's behalf. Number 8, questions may be answered immediately by the chair or referred to city staff for a future reply in a timely manner. Those that are adhering to these rules of decorum for attendees and participants will be asked to leave or be removed from the meeting if necessary. So at this point, we'll open up citizen comment period. Anybody wishing to speak, come to the podium. I believe we did a test, so the microphone should work. And state your name and address for the record. And if you wish to speak after that, please fall in behind to move things ahead as we have a very thick agenda. Good evening, Supervisor.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Alder people and citizens of Franklin. Happy holidays. I'm here to speak on item number 1.
If you could just please state your name and
Supervisor Patty Logston, 12100 West Belmar Drive, Franklin.
thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just here to speak on item number 1. It's long forthcoming that we hear some kind of report about the noise and the sound study. I was very happy to hear a few months back that the Common Council has agreed and are aware now that Milwaukee County did not set the 79 decibel limit. Michelle Eichman eloquently stated in that meeting, why aren't we following our own ordinances? And I thank you for that. So that is a step forward in the noise situation at the Rock. What I'd like to speak about is I want to see some accountability from this meeting as a result of item number 1. I'd like to hear some good comments from my alder people about what kind of solutions you're going to make. I don't want to see finger pointing. I don't want to see, well, it goes to the EDO to make that call if there's going to be something done about a noise complaint, or which goes to the planning committee. And as we all know, our planning committee sits downstairs here in the city hall and they leave by 4 o'clock. I don't want to have people confused as to who is in charge of following through with the processing of citations, ordinance, fines, or whatever for this. So I'm hoping to see some accountability, and I thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Good evening, Mr. Kleist.
Hi. Andy Kleiss, 6025 Parkview Road, Greendale. Just a few questions and a comment regarding item 1 on the sound enforcement update. I'm not sure if it'll be discussed as part of this update tonight, but I'd like to know what data the police department uses from the sound monitors at the Rock to determine a violation. And then I guess I'd also like to understand why citations weren't issued for Tacos and Tequila or the Phase Fest. Because I went to the sound monitors and I pulled the data. It shows the full 24-hour period for those events. And you can see they clearly blew over their 65 decibel limit, and it was in the 80s and 90s for a lot of that. So according to this data, there should have been some citations or something issued. And I believe there are also quite a few residents that had complained about the vulgar language at some of those concerts as well. So I guess I'd like to understand tonight what data they're using from the monitors, because according to what I see, there's clearly violations, and then also why there weren't citations issued for that event. Also going forward then with the new ordinances, it would be nice to look at getting away from averaging the sound in general. When you start averaging the sound, I feel like that, I doesn't feel like it does. It basically benefits the Rock and the developer when they're doing music, because they can be really loud, but they know if they have enough of the quiet periods, the average is going to bring it down, and it's always going to benefit the developer or the Rock when you're averaging sound. Also, I think it's going to be really difficult for the police officers to consistently monitor sound when you have to average. That means every single police officer will always have to go out, follow the exact same steps, take the same amount of readings, being able to figure out what the decibel level was based on the averages that they're calculating or figuring out, or however that is. And I just don't think that'll be consistently enforced. The last thing is with the live data on the website, it's not really helpful to the residents to have that up there. And then we're looking at it and saying, look, there's a violation here. You're above your level limit. But then the city or someone comes back and says, well, no, that's not true, actually. Based on the average, they were under the decibel level limit we set. That's not really being fair to the residents, acting in good faith, or being transparent with how that resolution that you guys passed back in April was supposed to work, and how we're supposed to be kind of working with the Rock on getting this sound level turned down. So thank you. But I just look forward to having those 2 questions answered, though. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kleist.
Good evening, Linda Mathwig, 7321 Brun Drive.
Okay, Ms. Mathwig, you have to announce that you are going to be running for alderperson.
Speak up.
I need to tell the audience
Yes.
that I have declared that I am running for alderperson for District 5.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that information, too. I'm looking forward also to G1 on tonight's agenda. It will be helpful for the residents to hear the police department's process on how they handle the sound enforcement. I cannot pass on the opportunity once again to reiterate the ongoing noise issues that many citizens in District 5 and 6 have experienced through the past years. These disturbances caused by excessive noise has significantly, impacted the quality of life for residents in these areas. I personally would relish not calling the police department because of excessive noise on my backyard, in my backyard, or even within the walls of my home. As we move into the new year, it is my hope that we can work towards encouraging a harmonious community. In light of this, I urge the council to adhere to the Franklin City Ordinance regarding the decibel limit when voting on events for 2025. Abiding by the established ordinance, we can ensure that residents' concerns are addressed in a fair and consistent manner. I would appreciate your consideration, and perhaps this can be a step towards preserving the well-being and comfort of all our citizens. In the spirit of this season, I would like to also express my gratitude for your dedication to the city and wish each of you a merry and peaceful Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Dana Gint, 9011 West Hawthorne Lane. Dear Common Council and Franklin Police Department, I appreciate that tonight's agenda includes police noise enforcement for the Rock Sports Complex. I'm hopeful that the police can disclose the total number of complaints attributed to the Rock and the total number of violations and the exact dates of those violations and how they were determined in detail. Police enforcement is a significant and substantial aspect of controlling the noise at the Rock. Without mitigation and penalties, the Rock will continue to be a nuisance as it has been for the past 10 years. The Planning Department does not patrol noise and nuisances related to special events, particularly since most of those events happen at night and on weekends. It is the job of the police, as indicated by Mayor Nelson on March 5th, that the resolution, and I quote, puts clarity, crystal clarity and direction on how this is going to be done. And to ask, is this the best use of the police resources? Well, who else is going to enforce this? I mean, exactly. The police have to enforce this. It is part of their job to enforce city ordinances, and violations will be dealt with swiftly on the spot. It appears that there is a disconnect between the intention of the resolution approved March 5th and what the police were following for enforcement over the past year. From my review, it seems that there is a significant part of the problem that direction given in March has not been fulfilled by the police department. It was confirmed multiple times that the police understood their enforcement requirements presented during the discussions in March and that the resolutions related to the Rock noise. The city staff indicated several times that there were meetings with the police and other staff to confirm that this new process and enforcement would be followed. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel article, March 7th, titled, "Franklin Says It Hasn't Been Following Its Own Code for Events, Officials Hope Resolution Helps," and quoted directly from the transcript of the meeting that if there were 8 complaints, meant 8 visits from the police. The article has information directly from the transcript that how this would be implemented was that if the police department gets 8 noise complaint calls, each an hour apart, a squad would be sent for each time. And if a violation was found, the venue would get 8 separate tickets. From my research and my reports, it looks like there are a total of possibly 2 citations for the Rock. One is for Red, White, and Blue, and I'm not sure what the other date is. But this is Tacos and Tequila and Phase Fest. Obviously, there's dozens of noise complaints. And according to my review, I'm not a police officer, but obviously it looks like the noise complaints were stacked for hours. And then the police staff was dispatched and arrived after the event ended. A half hour after all performances were done, the police were dispatched to go to the property to examine the noise complaints. And this is the noise actually monitors. I believe Andrew's printed this out. All the red shows that these are all violations.
3 minutes.
The municipal code regulations included in the March resolution that the police are required to enforce include 18340. Noise disturbance are prohibited into residential areas, which clearly identifies the use of loudspeakers and amplification devices are prohibited from creating a nuisance into residential areas. Another municipal code in the
3:30,
resolution.
Ms. Ginn, can you please?
Yep, this is my last
I
sentence.
know, but we do this
Yep,
every meeting.
I get you.
You're at 3:30, please.
It includes 121-9. No sound created by a special event can carry unreasonably beyond the boundaries of the special event premises, plus code 178. All of these codes have not been followed by the police or the city of Franklin for decades. And I would like very clear clarification on what the enforcement needs to be, that there's immediate mitigation actions
Okay, you're
done
over 4
during
minutes.
the events. Thank
Thank
you for your time.
Anyone wishing to speak? See no one? Closed citizen comment period. Going into letter D, we have no hearings. Letter E, organizational business, my appointment of John Zignacek Jr., 5241 West Princeton Pines Court, Alderman of D5 area, Board of Water Commissioners for a 5-year unexpired term expiring 9/30 of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it got a little crazy, so we're going to go with Alderman, what? I know, but we'll go back to that in a second. So we have Alderman D5 making the motion. That was the first, seconded by Alderman Hassan. And Mr. Pecorelli already said he was going to abstain. So roll call, please.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Abstain.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
4 ayes, 1 abstention, 1 absent, motion carries. Going back to C, approval of minutes, regular common council meeting of December 3rd, 2024. Is there a motion?
Motion to move.
Second.
First and seconded by Alderwoman Day. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G1, moving forward, if the PD chief, assistant chief would like to start coming up here and get comfortable and make sure all the microphones work properly. And Chief and Assistant Chief Stowers, welcome. And I know you heard some of the concerns brought up during citizen comment period. And if those, I believe those were going to be addressed, or some of them, and if it could be, that'd be great to kind of address the concerns that were brought forward, which would be awesome. If not, if you cannot answer them tonight, if there could be follow-up as soon as possible with Ms. Gint.
Good evening. The police department was requested to come here tonight to speak on its noise enforcement procedures. Although the bulk of noise complaints received by the Franklin Police Department in 2024 pertain to the activities occurring on the grounds of the Rock Sports Complex, the noise enforcement procedures I'll be speaking about tonight have been developed so they can be applied universally at permitted events throughout the city. Next slide, please. As of the creation of the PowerPoint last week, the Franklin Police Department has received 236 noise complaints citywide. This includes both permitted and non-permitted event activities. As you'll see, just over half of all noise complaints were regarding the Rock Sports Complex. Of the 120 complaints related to the Rock Sports Complex, 93 complaints were made from Franklin residents, 56 from the Hawthorne subdivision, which is located directly to the west of the property. 26 complaints were Greendale residents and 1 complaint from Hales Corners. Next slide, please. Then we'll break it down into noise complaints with permitted events versus non-permitted. You can see there's just a little bit more than 120, or there's 123 noise complaints for non-permitted events. That would cover if there was a complaint in like a apartment complex or maybe a loud vehicle in the neighborhood. It really kind of covers a wide variety of calls. When you're talking about the noise complaints for permitted events, you can obviously see the bulk, 111. Those complaints were related to the sports complex, and 2 of them were related to an event held at the Root River Fest. Next permit, please. Our next slide. Next, we'll look at a breakdown of permanent event investigative responsibilities. From January to May of 2024, all noise complaints received by the Franklin Police Department for permitted events were forwarded to the City Planning Department for follow-up investigation and enforcement action. As of May 2024, noise complaint investigation and enforcement for permitted events were separated between City Planning Department and the Police Department based on the type of permit, special or extraordinary event versus temporary use. Special or extraordinary events are found under the municipal code and are handled by the police department, and temporary use are found in the Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO, handled by the planning department. It's important to note that the city planning department handles day-to-day administration of the UDO, not the police department. It's important to recognize that. Slide. How the police department responded to permitted events evolved from May to August of 2024. During a specific permitted event at the Rock Sports Complex, Tacos and Tequila and Face Fest on June 22nd and June 23rd, the police department received a significant number of noise complaints. When the permanent sound monitors were reviewed, there was a lack of supporting data that one might have expected. This led to a change in the police department procedures, which included adding the step of taking a sound measurement, utilizing the police department's portable sound meter. The police department also adjusted how noise complaints were documented in our computer system. Historically, dispatch staff would create a call for the first noise complaint received for an event and document additional complaints under that call. In an effort to increase efficiency when looking for historical data for a given event, each noise complaint is now documented as a separate call. One point of clarification for some of the questions that were brought up earlier. During Tacos and Tequila, we generated a call for the first noise complaint that came in, and it was not a matter of an officer not being dispatched. They simply documented all the complaints under that same call. So that call was closed at the end of the event. It had nothing to do when the officer responded or not. Some challenges to enforcement that I wanted to bring up was that from our perspective, each and every permit issued in 2024 contained different criteria for what constituted a violation. To be as consistent as possible, we trained a small number of staff, specifically the patrol sergeants, regarding the enforcement procedures for permitted events. If we were to train everybody on how to handle event, and then it changed at the next event, it's too much room for error at that point. Let's see. Where we're at here. As you can see, the procedures for let's see. I think I go to, that's fine. You want to go to 6 right away? Yeah, that's the next one. While the ability of the public to access the permanent sound monitors installed in the Rock Sports Complex has been a valuable resource, it may have also led to some confusion. Some people have become frustrated when they visit the website and observe a higher than permitted decibel level being reported by the sound monitors and learn that the police department did not issue a citation for the violation of the permit. It's important to examine the audio file recorded during a triggering event on the permanent sound monitors to determine what source is generating the reported decibel reading. Oftentimes, the wind, birds, sirens, and motorcycles generate higher levels of noise than the permitted venue. Right now, what we're going to do is play a couple of the audio files that go along with the triggered events so you guys can see what we have to hear, which then would generate a citation or not. So that's a sound clip that was from the Phase Fest event, one of many. So you can randomly click on these. What we found on the 23rd, which was the Phase Fest event, there was a lot of wind noise on all of these. So we had to take the painstaking time of going through each one of these clips to determine whether there was a violation or not, and it was wind, 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 over and over. So.
Hold on.
One of the other challenges or worth noting is that the limits set for Phase Fest is 65 decibels for 10 seconds. There was one occurrence, which is probably what's being referred to on the West Monitor, which was above 65 for 3 seconds. So we're simply looking at the data that's provided by the high-tech monitors and determining whether a violation exists or not. If you want to go to, yeah. Next, we're going to go to September 1st, which was Red, White, and Brew, which Red Rock was cited for. And you can see a clear difference between the data that's reported. So that's evidence of a clear violation in my mind. Now, obviously, that citation is still in the court process, but that's the evidence that we base our citation off of. in my mind, clearly a violation of the permitted limits. There was one other violation that occurred during summer concert series event on, I believe it was July 27th, where again, there was a clear violation of the permitted limits for the summer concert series. You can go to the next slide. So when we do receive a complaint, whether it's at the Rock or whether it's at Root River or whether permanent event, we do contact event staff and let them know that we've received a complaint, and then we do go ahead and check the sound monitor if there has one, if they have one. If it's an event at like Root River, then we would then take the portable sound monitor and check for a violation. And up there is the municipal code, which we cite the violations for. And again, it's one violation per day per permit, and there was 2 citations issued in 2024. So in closing, I want to acknowledge that the police department staff are not trained sound experts. After being thrust into this role earlier this year, PD staff spent a significant amount of time and effort creating investigative procedures, responding to complaints, and reviewing countless sound monitor data to determine when and if any noise violations have occurred at permitted events. My recommendation moving forward would be to enlist the services of a third-party firm with expertise in sound monitoring, which would help ensure that any permanent sound monitor equipment is placed in an effective location and is functioning properly during permitted events. Additionally, they could provide real-time updates to both event organizers and city staff concerning any potential sound violations of permitted event-specific limits. I can answer any questions you have now.
Thank you, Chief, Assistant Chief. So yes, we've got some questions. I've got a few I'd like to start with, and then we'll turn it over to council. So the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones, is I've heard about accountability and enforcement. But it has to be noted about proper enforcement, not just once you see something up there, run, cite, shut down, scorched earth. No, it's not how this works properly. That's not a proper procedure. I believe the proper procedure is 100% to have a third party similar to the ones that operate over at the quarry to monitor these. That way it completely removes anybody's hyper worriedness about, are we influencing these? Are the Rock people influencing these? It goes to a third party. A third party has to ensure that they're always properly working with a backup. That would be part of what we'd be looking into. We already are looking into it. But there is a process that this has been followed, and it is a simple noise ordinance enforcement, and you've been enforcing them, but you've also been enforcing them after, which we've seen demonstrations of what the sound actually is. You can sit there and you could stand up and you can hold up a sheet with violations on it, like Mr. Kleist just did, and you have to wonder, is that verifiable, which we just saw? What is it? Is it wind? Is it a bird? What is it? Or is it the music playing? And then when it is the music playing, enforcement occurs. And that's exactly how this is to work. You verify what the offense is, you verify. You have to verify it. What is it that's causing the decibels to go north of 55? Or in some cases, north of 60, north of 65, whatever the permit is. But there is enforcement and there is accountability. Will it always be to the level of everybody? No. But what is fair, consistent, and reasonable? And that reasonable test is, okay, there's enforcement. Is there a violation? Yep, citation issued. I don't think anybody disagrees with that once it's been verified that is a actual violation. So again, we are working to get that third party in here to run that and to operate it quickly, because in my estimation, it's worth its weight in gold to have a third party address all this stuff, so we aren't continuously coming up here and talking about this issue when the rest of the city's got so many great things going on. I'll yield at this point. Alderwoman Eichman?
I don't have anything at this point.
Okay, you're good at this point? Alderwoman Day?
I just have a couple of things, and thank you, Chief, for taking the time today to respond to my email. I know it was short notice. So the question I have, just based on the data that you showed us tonight on the numbers, you mentioned that in May is when PD kind of took over the sound piece of it. So your numbers, when you talk about the 120 complaints for the Ballpark Commons area, that's since May, because that's your data, correct? Not the total number for the year. There might be more calls than that, but they were being handled in a different manner.
No, that would be all the calls
It is all the
for
calls,
the year.
okay.
Yes, correct. That data is across.
Okay, I wanted to-
Yeah, whether we were enforcing it or planning, or
Okay.
that's just the calls.
Great,
It's
okay.
both the calls that we received and any city complaints that were referred to us. That's combined. That's the combined total that
Okay.
we're aware of.
Excellent, thank you for that. And then my other point, kind of going to your recommendation as well as what the mayor just spoke to, I also agree that there needs to be someone who's an expert in this field that is taking on some of these issues that we have, because clearly you don't have the bandwidth or the expertise to be sound engineers. That's not what you do. You're there to enforce violations of code. And I think to the point of the documents that I've seen that residents have shown me with the sound monitor printouts that they have, and then, listening to the noise, obviously, it's a bit of a pickle because they're hearing something, they think it's too loud, but the only thing we have, because, a police officer isn't going to be standing at the event, 24/7 to monitor when that happens. So the only recourse we have is 702. Joe Smith called and said there was a violation. You go to the monitor, you go to the recording, and at 702, you hear wind, like we just heard. Now, is it possible that the wind was blowing really hard that day, and that's why the sound traveled in that direction? Maybe. I don't know, but we're not sound monitors. So I concur with looking into having a company come out that can make sure that these things are placed correctly, they're functioning correctly, and that what we think we're seeing is actually really what's happening. It'll be good for us, good for you, good for the developer, good for the residents, kind of a win for everyone. So with that, I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Piccarelli?
I have two questions. So the first one is, just to clarify, so you had the 236 total complaints, right?
Yep.
And there was a period of time where when we had complaints, we were adding them to the original call, so to speak. So is that 236 splitting out all of those that are in there, or is the 236 counting that as a one instead of, let's say there's 5 or 7 in it or something like that?
If there was one call that was taken, but there was 6 complaints as part of it, it counted as 6 complaints.
Okay, so that 236 then. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then the second question I have is, so 1 violation per day per permit. So if you kept getting, just hypothetically, if you kept getting called out over and over again and kept going out there, with there only being 1 violation per day, is there any escalation related to that? Or how does the ordinance work related to that and enforcement?
The way I interpret it is once you've violated your permit restrictions for the day, they're violated. So I would assume that the number of complaints would still carry weight when the licensing committee was reviewing a future license for that premise. So if they got 35 complaints and 1 citation, maybe you don't issue the permit. I think that would carry weight in that. So the number of complaints still holds weight, whether it's 1 citation, 10 citations. I really don't know how, if we were to issue more, how we would delineate that, because we could get the same person calling 4 times. We could get, and as far as court prosecution, quite often if they have multiple complaints, they combine it down to 1 for prosecution purposes anyway. So even if you issue 10 on a day, chances are they would turn it down to 1 and handle it in that manner. A violation is a violation. So again, I think that's why we made some adjustments when it comes to our procedures. After reviewing the data for Phase Fest, I would have expected to find a violation based on number of complaints. The data just didn't support it. I'm not saying that it wasn't too loud, because we got a lot of complaints, but there was no data to prove it. That's why I'm looking for that third-party company, because there was a lot of wind that day, which that's what it picked up was the wind. Again, not saying that there wasn't the violation there. We just can't prove it.
And so then, is there ever a scenario, regardless of location in Franklin, where if you had noise complaints, that you can go above and beyond to try to stop or cease what's going on?
Typically, from my experience, the Rock is a little bit of an outlier, but typically when you go to an event or a private place and you ask them, you know, we got a complaint, turn the sound down, typically they do it and that rectifies itself. This is from experience. So as far as forcibly doing something, is that what you're asking? Like, I don't know what our, I don't have an immediate answer for you.
And then just to add on, I do like the idea of getting a third party involved, and I would say to add to that, since we have the sound monitors, right, and everything like that, I think part of this is we need to look at when we issue types of permits that require like these certain permits, that along with that, maybe there is someone that's stationed there for the period of time that is going on, so that we don't have to rely on a sound monitor. Because otherwise we're relying on technology that's sitting there all the time. And I'm going to tell you right now, technology sometimes doesn't work. So that's my comment on that. I yield.
Thank you. Alderwoman Eichman, then Alderman Barber.
Thank you, Mayor. Going off of what Alderman Pecorelli had just stated, one of my questions that I had this evening, when you had mentioned having an officer sit at an event, how many, and then I'm not going to hold you to this, Chief, but on average, on a Saturday night, how many patrol cars are out in our city?
Second shift.
Second shift?
Second shift, yeah.
Minimum staffing would be 6.
6 out of a huge city,
Correct.
36,000 people.
Yep.
So, I mean, to have a squad car tied up for noise when there's people throughout our city that are dealing with car thefts, burglaries, robberies, domestic abuse, the list is endless of what the PD deals with, as most of us know. What's in the police blotter that's published weekly is only a fraction of the calls that they go on, of course. So I just wanted to make a point of the amount of squad cars that we have to cover the miles of radius within our city. Also, I wanted to mention, if a sound monitor is down, say you're getting excessive amount of calls for an event, dispatcher, whomever looks, and that sound monitor is down, if an officer is available, then do you send them out with a handheld monitor?
Well, after Phase Fest is when we kind of switched, and now we'll do both. So we'll look at the sound monitor, because if the sound monitor has a violation, there's no reason to send someone out. We've got the violation. If it doesn't show anything for whatever reason, assuming that because the sergeant's the one that's going to make that measurement, assuming that they're available, or as soon as they become available, they'll go take that measurement in person. So it's kind of we kind of learned from Phase Fest, and that's why we adjusted our procedures. So now we do both.
Right, which I appreciate. I know a comment in citizen comment period was made earlier that residents are affected in District 5 and 6. So that's not true, because they're also affected in District 2, which is my district, which borders the Rock. Literally across the street from the Rock is District 2, which is the district I represent. I also wanted to touch base, and you mentioned 120 of the complaints, 93 from Franklin, 56 from Hawthorne, 26 from Greendale, and 1 from Hills Corners. We will ignore the one in Hills Corners because that's one call. But for example, the 26 in Greendale, is that 26 separate calls, 26 separate households, or is that just the total amount of calls that came in?
That's the total amount of calls that
Okay.
came in from
So
Green.
it would be possible that that would be from one home or two? I mean, it's hard to pinpoint, but
Well-
if somebody really wanted to sit there
Correct.
and
Well-
call 26 times, that would be counted the 26?
That's correct. So if someone from Greendale called, let's say twice on a given night, that would be 2 separate calls.
2 separate calls, okay.
Yes,
Because
correct.
that's what I was going to ask with the 56 on Hawthorne. There's not 56 houses on Hawthorne Lane that I'm aware of, that I believe. So that would be multiple complaints from the same households,
Correct.
just for the clarity of that. Okay.
Correct. There's
All right.
a few that have made multiple complaints.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for right now. I yield. I appreciate it.
Before Mr. Barber goes into this, if I could ask you, Alderman, because it predates me in that seat on the very far end, How long have you been on the Quarry Monitoring Committee?
9 years.
9 years? Okay. And I'm just leading into that is because you being on the Quarry Monitoring Committee, I believe having the company that monitors the noise and the explosions and all that, I mean, that's made a huge positive impact on monitoring. And that's, I mean, I'm just trying to lead into the obvious because I believe that is the solution for everyone, is to have that get implemented. You've got the floor, sir.
I would like to see the monitoring warrior, the monitoring committee, the rock monitor in place before the next season starts.
Your choice.
We could put something in place. The idea is who's going to be owning the monitors, who's going to be doing the upkeep, who's going to make sure that they're in place and functioning. And then the next thing would be, are they just going to monitor? Are they going to report back to the council? What's going to be their overall responsibility? Come to us at a meeting shortly after an event and let us know. And then what's the statute of limitations for the number of tickets that could be issued? What is the fine for that, given the municipal code? Can it escalate if there's more violations beyond what is just a nominal amount at this point? So those are the kind of things that I'd like to see part of, because it's part of the Quarry Monitoring Committee to monitor that and report back. And it should be in a timely manner, because we get them at least once a month, and if there's a violation, we can act on it as a council at that point. So it shouldn't be just up to the police. We could also help in that with the committee. It wouldn't have to be issued that night, but if there's clear violations, and we could stipulate fees that would be commensurate with the numbers, look at all that, and have that all in place prior to the opening game.
Alderwoman Day?
Thank you. I have one thing that I forgot previously. Chief, you were speaking to, as far as an enforcement piece, that the number of calls or number of complaints, it bears weight for future events. And so my ask was going to be, I know that the clerk's office, when the special events come in, typically route those through the department heads for any comments that they have. And I'm not sure what your protocol is right now for whoever reviews those, but if there are things like this that have happened for specific events, if you could include those comments and statistics in that report, as long with other like traffic or safety concerns that you have, because that gives those that are on license committee at the time, as well as the rest of the council members, because I believe we all do get that packet to look at prior to our meeting for that day. So if we could have that included, that would be helpful, that we can, kind of go back and review that piece. So thank you.
I'd be happy to do that.
Alderman Eichmann?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to expect an answer to this question right now, but of course, the idea comes down to the cost of a third-party firm that would be monitoring it, which I am not opposed to doing. I think that it is a wise idea, but who's going to be paying for that? Is it going to be our taxpayers throughout the city of Franklin? Is it going to be the ROC? A combination of the two? I mean, that's obviously one large factor of the third party that we would have to address as well. That I yield.
So to answer that question about how does it get paid for? How does that third party get paid for? I would like to use the model that's basically in place right now at the quarry, and how I mean, it's successful. So that whole quarry plan has been worked wonderfully. And I'd like to take a look at that and see, which I have, and go off of that model. And given, I think it's the most reasonable and transparent way to deal with this. And then how citations get issued they would be after the fact, as far as how that would work. That's how it is now. I mean, you're not, if some sort of noise explosion, some sort of whatever, that's what's scheduled, goes over a certain limit or whatever, then there's accountability. And that way you have it right there, you have it transparent as possible. And to other points that were made up earlier is, are these sound monitors placed in the right area? Are they where they should be? Are they where they maximize their ability to be used? That's also in that. So my plan, my vision for this, which would be to Mr. Barber's position, quickly to be put in place by the opening pitch, is to have all those things in line where it's like, it's right here. In one fell swoop, monitors moved, where they got to be, backup plan, third parties got them, who owns them, that would be, again, that the whole plan was that we would take over ownership. Rock pays for the annual calibration, upkeep, whatever that would be. That's how we would kind of, wean into that part of it with who pays for it. And then once they're all there and they're done by a professional, would be, let's say the same vendor or one like it, they would position them where they would be most effective. And then once they're there, based on an expert, which would be them, not us, not The Rock, that's where they sit. That's where they're posted. That's where they'll be. Then we're done with that piece. Then we go into how it's tracked, then about accountability. And we bring it all there home with who pays for it, and then we move on. And I think that should be satisfying of everybody, in theory. Mr. Barber.
One component of the quarry monitoring committee is that we pay for, we don't pay for it, the quarry pays for it. They have as part of the PDD, the fact that they pay for any costs related to the monitoring committee. They set a limit or we set a limit with them at the beginning of the year, and that's what they can go up to. They come up with a contract as to what they can do with that dollar amount. So that is just a pass on to the quarry, and that gets paid through the quarry. The whole idea of having the delayed reporting is not a problem. It works out very well. We can handle it through the council. If there is violations, sufficient violations, then we can issue citations, whether it be the planning committee or the officers that would have to issue that citation based on the event. But that is something that would be our purview as a council to do. So that's my recommendation, along with everybody else up here. I agree wholeheartedly with that, and I can work with that because I do have the quarry background experience.
Thanks, sir. Alderman Monica?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more thing I wanted to add. The relationship that we have had with, for example, The Rock, with special events, all of us as alders are given a key person and a phone number to contact if we're getting multiple complaints. For example, Phase Fest and so forth, where if we can hopefully get a hold of someone at The Rock, when we're receiving calls, as we all do, that's something that we hadn't had established in the past, I wanted to point out too. So we are definitely making some strides in that way. Thank you.
Mr. Barber?
One component that gets negotiated every year is the fact that the monitoring agency that we have would come up and do on-site visits as well. We could give them the mic. Certain days they can just show up. Certain events they can just show up and do monitoring. So that's a big component of that. To have them come on site as a third party and do that analysis for us. I yield.
And I agree with you, because that third party would be able to come on and would have access 24/7 to that entire campus. So they wouldn't be prohibited from coming on, running tests, moving things around, and I agree with you. So that was well explained. Anyone else before we move on? Mr. Pecorelli?
I just have a question. Can this presentation be put on the city website? Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Chief, Assistant Chief, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. G2, a resolution authorizing Franklin Director of Health and Human Services to execute the 2025 Division of Public Health Consolidated Contract. We're waiting for the Health Department to come up here. Thank you very much for being patient and waiting. Good evening and welcome.
I'll move to approve.
Okay,
I'll second.
first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G3, resolution authorizing Franklin Director of Health and Human Services to execute the Franklin Health Department James Imaging Agreement.
Motion to move.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Very good.
G4, I'll speak slowly. Good evening, Chief. Request common council approval of updates to the Fire Battalion Chief and Lieutenant job descriptions and the adoption of a new captain job description. Fire Chief Mayor, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. There was, to start off with, I did distribute an updated packet for item G4. The documents that were included in your packet were also sent to the Personnel Committee for their meeting last night, and I apologize, it did have some strike-throughs and some highlighting that was not to be part of the actual adopted job descriptions. Just a real high-level overview. What we are looking at doing is creating a captain's position. We've been working on that for the past couple of years, along with including it with negotiations with the union the last go around, and we believe it will be a very positive move to move.
Go ahead, you're good. That's
To
just
move-
Roy.
oh,
Somebody,
gotcha.
Marvin Wolf in the back.
To move three of our current lieutenants would be promoted to station captains. The primary goal of the captain's position is to establish a new rank to provide a pathway of professional development from company officer, which is our current lieutenant, to the rank of battalion chief. When we created that job description as a mid-level supervisor, we had to adjust both the lieutenants, which are below a captain, and the battalion chiefs, which are above the captain, to reflect the current training requirements, education requirements, and experience. And we believe that what we have now with this package, that it flows very smoothly from one level to the next as far as roles, responsibilities, and training. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Barber.
Last night, this came before the Personnel Committee, and we discussed questions, obviously, that the chief answered. So I would make a motion to pass, I'd make a motion to pass this. Personnel Committee approved it unanimously, and I yield, but I will make the motion.
Okay, we've got a first, seconded by Alderman Hassan. Further discussion by Mr. Pecorelli.
I just have, I think, 2 questions.
At least.
So just to clarify, so I think when I read through this, it looks like there's no backfill. So essentially, we're putting 3 and then shifting. All right, and I follow the progression and all that, and it makes sense to me. And then from a financial impact standpoint,
Great question.
What-
So yes, obviously the captains would be receiving a higher wage than the lieutenants. We did include that in the 2025 budget, and it was approved. So we have a draft or a accounting for a raise. The next step, once the job description is approved, we would meet with the bargaining unit and come to hammer out a final what that wage is going to be. But it basically sits right between the lieutenant and battalion chief position.
Okay.
But it was we were trying to come up with a logical step that obviously we can't decide how much this is going to be paid until we find out what their responsibilities would be.
Yep.
But
Yeah, and that was going to be my question, is
Yep.
is in the budget, so thank you.
very good.
Thank you, Mr. Pecorelli. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G5, request common council approval of sick leave and compensatory time off benefits for fire battalion chiefs to more closely align with benefit changes for represented fire department members. Chief.
This also appeared with the Personnel Committee last night and was approved to move forward by the Personnel Committee. It's not truly a large monetary change. However, our battalion chiefs who are not part of the bargaining unit, generally we've tried to mirror their benefits as far as sick leave and comp time off to mirror the represented or union employees that they're supervising. So this basically is just, it brings them up to the same level for 2025 as far as sick leave and comp time off. The one thing I do want to mention is that even though the battalion chief is an administrative position, their job is very physical because they do also respond out on calls. They are the 24-hour incident commander for any significant emergency incidents in the city, whether it be a structure fire, a major car accident. Even though they're administrators, they are physically out doing the job, putting on protective gear, providing emergency medical care. So their sick leave and benefits are very important to their health, their morale, and obviously we want to retain them as well.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
First and seconded by Alderman Barber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Well done, chief. A long day. G6, resolution authorizing certain officials to authorize an amendment to the consulting services agreement with SB Friedman for financial analysis services for existing and future TID agreements in the amount of $35,000. Good evening, Mr. Regis. I thought we were going to fly through that one.
Yeah, well, not much explanation. Since July 6th of 2021, we've been utilizing SB Friedman to help us with negotiating and structuring tax increment finance deals. Right now, we're looking seriously at 42 TID districts and potentially for a third, depending on where the developer ends up finalizing their model. So, all of that requires negotiation of anchor deals.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We got a first and a second, and we've got Mr. Wazalowski, our city attorney.
I understand the motion to be per the action sheet, which also authorizes the Director of Administration and Mayor to amend and administer the appropriate related contract versus exactly what's back in.
Yeah, what you have before you is previous contract. We got a few updates with rates, the staff.
Fair enough. We have a first and a second. What? Mr. Barber, did you make the second?
Yes.
Yes, he did. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Regis. A resolution to issue change order for the DPW expansion project in the amount of $386,792.81 to Kamosi Incorporated. Who is taking this one? I believe Superintendent Schleter is coming up here. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
So what, oh,
Thank
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir. I just want to make sure it's working.
I felt it was best to bring everybody up to date on the DPW expansion. As everybody, I'm sure, is well aware, we're doing an expansion at the DPW. And during construction, as you can imagine, things come up where change orders have to be looked into and done. I'm bringing these forward that we have as of now with our best estimates on the price. Some of them are, three of them are credits, the rest are all cost. Is there any questions I can answer regarding them?
Alderwoman Day?
I just have one question related to the retention pond and grading. It says here that it was originally estimated at approximately $800,000. City engineer as well as additional DPW staff have adjusted the construction plans, and you reduced it down to $125,000, not including landscaping charges. So when it says not including landscaping charges, is that an additional change order or an additional fee that's going to come in later on, or were those landscaping charges already accounted for in previous bids for this work?
No, they haven't.
Okay.
And the reason I didn't include that now, because we're going to have to go to Planning Commission for approval on a landscape plan.
Okay, so a new landscape plan is coming. Okay.
Yes, and when I know that, we're trying to scale back that a little bit
Sure.
because we're not building the berm at this time.
Okay.
And I hate to put all a bunch of landscaping in and tear it back out.
No, that clears up my confusion. I'm on Plan Commission, so I feel like this is the song that doesn't end, because I've seen this like 7 times already. So that clears up my confusion. Thank you.
The song that doesn't end. Mr. Picarelli, I might use that once.
Yeah, so on here, I noticed that it says that in case it's planned, excuse me, it's planned that ARPA funds are going to cover it, but it has some caveat in here that in case that is an additional funding would be needed. What's the likelihood that ARPA funds aren't going to be able to be used for this? We know.
Are not going to be able to be used?
Yeah,
It's my understanding we will be using ARPA.
so it's pretty
Right.
much a,
I think
Yes.
it's very slim.
I just wanted to make sure I
yeah.
covered all bases.
And I just wanted to understand the
It's-
risk associated
Yeah,
with that.
it's my understanding it'll be ARPA funds.
Okay, thank you.
And the one, Courtney had asked, for the retention pond work, it did originally start out at 800,000, went to 720, and we just kept cutting back to the bare minimum, and that's why we're down to the 125. So
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a first, seconded by Alderman Barber. Let's do a roll call on this. Please.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichmann.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
All right.
5 ayes, no noes, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. G8, authorization to solicit and receive bids for the Ryan Road Trunk Sewer Project. Mr. Beardsley, Director, good evening, welcome.
Good evening. This project was kind of put in the budget at the last moment. We're trying to get ahead of the Highway 100 reconstruction. The project is coming along, so we'd like to get permission to get out to bid as of the first of the year, and we'll return with received bids when we have them.
Questions from the council? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to authorize.
I'll second.
We have a first, seconded by Alderman Peccarelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G9, a resolution for addendum number 1 to Foth Infrastructure and Environment LLC agreement for additional design services for Lovers Lane Water Main for $32,908.28. Mr. Beardsley.
This is a project that is complete, and Foth is wrapping up their services, and their extent of work is done, and they would like to be paid, and we need to make an amendment to their original contract to satisfy the work done.
So move.
Well, so we have first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second for the discussion, Mr. Peccarelli.
So I'm just trying to get caught up on this. So when was the work actually done?
Yeah, this started as part of the planning of Highway 100, which the state's reconstruct, or almost done.
Yeah.
And the water main portion was installed earlier this year.
The planning of it, to answer your question, I believe dates back to 2022, from what I've seen in terms of documentation.
Okay. But the work was actually done this year.
Correct.
And then when did we know we had additional costs that were coming in associated with this?
When we brought it forward, we're unpacking a lot.
Okay, so this was going on, but this is part of what didn't have full visibility into what was going on.
Correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
And this was approved by the Board of Water Commissioners at tonight's meeting as well.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay, we had a first and a second. Could we have a roll call on this, please?
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichmann.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
5 ayes, no noes, 1 absent, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beardsley. G10, the revised G10 in front of you as well. A resolution authorizing the execution of the funding agreement between the City of Franklin and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, referred to as MMSD, for the mobile park design under the Private Property Infiltration and Inflow PPI2 production program. Good evening, Madam Director of Administration.
Good evening. I would like to introduce my expert here. As I'm sure you all know, I do like to have my items supported when I can. This is CJ, and he is with Clark Dietz, the contractor for this project that has been ongoing as well for, I believe I had seen 2021.
Yeah, it's been a few years, yeah.
You'll give your name and your address.
Yeah, just your name, pull it closer to you.
Yeah. I am,
Just your name and business address, please.
Yeah, it's CJ Bayer with Clark Dietz. We have a 759 North Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I think if I remember right. I am just the engineer on record for these programs.
So this, the request is to move forward with a funding agreement that is with MMSD. They would cover 80% of all expenses related to this project. This portion of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, this portion of it is covered at 100% by MMSD. It is, everything is ready to go. And we, if this is approved, we do need to get signatures tonight and over to MMSD tomorrow due to holiday vacation plans. If you've got any questions, we're happy to.
I am more than happy to explain 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 50 minutes, however, whatever you guys need to understand the programs and what MMSD is offering to the city and how we can help. If you want me to do a 2-minute
Well,
thing, I can.
no, I think people have read it. We'll go around and see if people have questions. If not, I'm going to look for a motion.
Yeah.
So are there questions right now? Oh, Mr. City Attorney?
There are actually 2 agreements within this item,
Yes.
and they would all be covered by adoption of
Yes.
this resolution, because one of the, be it resolved is that it authorizes the mayor, director of administration, director of finance, and treasurer to execute all related documents, agreements, et cetera. And so what you had as a handout is some updated, if you will, minor
Right.
changes
Yes. So
with
just,
regard to the MMSD PPI contract. That's one. And then the other one is with the Clark Dietz Company. It's the other one.
correct. So city attorney had called me today to let me know that the 2024 PPII work plan through MMSD did not have the correct information. So that is one revision. The other is within the agreement itself, there is on page 5 of 6, we had, in lieu of the word contractor, we had client. So upon receipt of such notification, a client review and written approval is required for the client to continue to perform work under this agreement. Obviously, that doesn't work. So this is just a correction to that. This is also, I want to say, the third project of a greater umbrella of projects. We've had a lot of success with the neighborhoods that have benefited from this project so far. This is for the mobile park design. And there's 2 mobile parks that are actually falling under this project and the funding. And my understanding is, and you might be able to speak to this more, is it's a very necessary project for that area in particular.
I'd like to hold for a second. Madam Clerk, you've got the floor.
I just have one question. If it's going to be signed today, does someone have the attachment A and the insurance documents?
The what?
It refers to attachment A. I don't see it.
Okay.
Thinking it's in here.
Is it?
I
I
thought
don't-
so. There was a-
If it does not have the insurance documents, we can get that to you tomorrow, at least for our service agreements.
Yeah, I didn't.
We just re-upped our insurances in November 30th, so,
And the attachment A that it refers to?
and that would be our hourly billing, I believe.
And Madam Director of Administration, you're comfortable with the numbers and the contract and the fees?
Yes.
Okay, good. Is there a motion on this?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First, second, roll call, please, on this, please.
Just to clarify, I just
Nope.
wanted to clarify one item.
We have
So
a
it was
first
hu-
and a second. Mr.
Yep.
Pecorelli, you've got the floor.
Thank you. So 100, you said 100% on this one is covered?
Correct. The design portion of it falls under 100% coverage. There will be expenses that'll come to the city, and they will not go beyond 20% of the total project.
Okay, and then those expenses is that covered in our 2025 budget?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
thank
Okay.
you.
I feel like it
Are
still
you good?
didn't pick up.
Are you good, Mr.
I'm good.
Pecorelli?
I yield.
Okay, we've got a first and a second. We're going to go with a roll call, please.
Alderman Pecorelli?
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman?
Aye.
Alderman Hassan?
Aye.
Alderwoman Day?
Aye.
Alderman Barber?
Aye.
5 ayes, no nos, 1 absent, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
G11, a resolution to approve Terracon Consultants, Inc. Geotechnical Services proposal as part of the 2025 Local Street Improvement Program project. And are we looking for Mr. Schlueter coming back? And there is an updated packet portion in front of you, marked G11 in the top right. Superintendent, you've got the floor.
What we're asking for is permission to have TerraTech consultants come in, do some soil boring testing underneath Drexel Avenue because Drexel is being considered for road replacement next year in 2025's program. And we really want to get a feel for what's under there to see what we're dealing with because this is going to be a major project, so. And this would come out of 2025's road program budget.
Right.
So it's already been budgeted. Good. Questions, Alderwoman Day?
Just briefly, the changes, is it just technical corrections from the city attorney, or what are the changes in front of us? I didn't see anything in my quick flip through here. I didn't go line for line, though.
Compared to what's in the packet.
Kelly? Mr. City Attorney?
Compared to what's in the packet, there were a number of changes, but each and every one brought it closer to the city standard form from what the contractor had originally provided. So that's the brief summary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion on this?
I'll make the motion to adopt.
There a second?
I'll second.
First and seconded, let's go with roll call again, please, on this.
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Pecorelli.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nos, 1 absent, motion carries. The wheels are falling off. Thank you. It's only 7:41.
Okay, we need the-
All right. G12, a resolution to issue change order number 2 for the 2024 PPII sump pump project to decrease the contract price by $156,936.40. Good evening, sir. What are your-
Yeah, it's just to essentially close this project out. This particular one, we came in under what was expected.
That's exactly right.
Yay!
That's
Yay.
All right, there's a motion for this.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
First and second, all those in favor?
It was a great program. I wanted
Any
to
opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
I appreciate you
5
saying that.
No, no.
Thank you.
one
Thank
absent.
you.
G13, authorization to allocate American Rescue Plan Act funding for specific projects. Madam Director of Administration, you've got the floor.
This is going to be essentially a blanket motion to cover all of our related ARPA fund contracts that we need to shore up by the end of the year. We are requesting approval so that way we don't have any money left on the table.
I'll
Simple.
make the motion.
Mr. San, is there a second?
I'll second.
Alderwoman Day, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. 5 ayes on those, 1 absent, motion carries. G14, annual market adjustment to wage and salary rates and progress to market wage adjustment for non-represented employees. Madam Director of Administration.
This is just applying the 2025 adoption of the budget. We have applied the 2% market increase and then the various levels as applicable to where our staff falls within the range of, there's 2.25 adjustments for those that fall under 30% of the range. There is a 1.5% adjustment for those that are in the midpoint, which is 30 to 50. And then above 50 to 65 is a 0.75. So there's varying levels of adjustments, and it's just to try to keep in line with the market right now.
Questions from the council?
Motion to approve.
Oh, Alderman Eichman?
I just wanted to point out in keeping with the adjustments, is also ensures employee retention versus the
It
opposite
helps.
without it. It helps.
Nothing insures anything.
Well, I know, but it's something that I feel is needed to
100%
help
agree.
employee retention. Thank you, that's all.
All right, we've got a first, Mr. Barber?
The Personnel Committee shared your thoughts last night when they went through this, and that was one of the key components as to why we wanted to bring this forward.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Barber. We've got a first. Was there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Day. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Weak. Any opposed? 5 ayes, no nos, 1 absent, motion carries. G15, a resolution authorizing certain officials to execute an agreement and continue professional environmental engineering services to monitor compliance at the Metro Recycling and Disposal Facility to December 31st, 2025 with JSA Environmental, Inc.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We've got a first and a second, and I'm going to go off script here because I think we can. Good evening, Mr. Wolf, and welcome. Yeah, I know you've got, you're good back there, sir, because I know you got some limitations. But thank you for showing. I just want to say thank you. And if anybody did have any questions, our resident expert on this would be Mr. Marvin Wolf. If there are any questions on this, I appreciate you coming up, but I know I wasn't asking you to. But if anybody's got any questions? No? Okay, do we have a first and second on this?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Wolf, for everything you do. 5 ayes, no noes, 1 absent. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Thank you, Mrs. Wolf. G16. A motion under closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 sub 1 sub G to confer with legal counsel or the common counsel who is rendering advice concerning strategy to be adopted for the body with respect to Dane Novakovic and Svetlana Novakovic versus City of Franklin, Waukegan County Circuit Court Case Number 24-CB-5902 with regard to an excessive 2023 tax assessment claim submitted by Dane and Svetlana Novakovic on July 26, 2024 for the property bearing tax key number 7490088-001, which litigation is pending, and to render closed session at the same time and place thereafter to act on such matters discussed therein as it deems appropriate. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into closed.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nos, 1 absent. We are slowly going into closed session. Folks that are in the audience, thank you very much. Is there a motion to proceed as discussed in closed session?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Sands got the
I'll
first?
second.
Seconded by Alderman Eichman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving forward, this was a big one. Licenses, who's taking this?
I will be mayor.
All right, Alderman Eichman?
The License Committee met this evening, myself and Alderwoman Day. Alderman Craig was not present. We had one item on our agenda this evening, which was approved. We adjourned at 6:15.
Excellent.
Second.
Alderman Day, second, good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Go on to ayes and Ida. Vouchers and payroll approval, 4 points. This will be a roll call. City vouchers with an ending date of December 12th, 2024, in the amount of $2,249,328.55. Point 2, payroll dated December 13th, 2024, in the amount of $486,550.70, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $259,742.96 plus city matching payments. And point 3, estimated payroll dated December 27th, 2024, in the amount of $475,000, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $632,000 plus city matching funds. And point 4, approval to release UPI LLC payment in the amount of $421,016.37.
So move.
Second.
We have a first and a second. This is a roll call.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Assam.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nos, 1 absent, motion carries. Is there a motion to
I'll make the
adjourn?
motion.
I'll second.
First and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We are now adjourned. You can take us off the record at 8:03 PM.
Nice.